Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna. For those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. I appreciate all of you so very much. Today I'm doing the next installment in my Palette Roulette series, in which I let an app choose a palette for me. I use it all week and I come back to you and talk to you about my findings of the palette, show you some looks, give you some swatches, talk to you a little bit about my palette, and then choose a new one. Today's palette was the Carli Bybel ABH palette. This is in collaboration with ABH and Carli Bybel, who is an influencer an influencer here on the YouTube platform. This palette, when it first promoted, went for $45, and it was sold at Ulta, Sephora, and of course ABH online. It is currently not for sale at Ulta. I don't know. It is a limited edition palette. I'm quite certain maybe they sold out. I'm not sure. But right now it is on sale at both the ABH website and the Sephora website. The Sephora website does have it a wee bit cheaper. It is $22.50 currently at Sephora, and it is $31.50 currently on the ABH website. So Sephora's the way to go if you do plan on picking this up. The Sephora website does have it at 4.0 stars with 375 reviews. And the ABH website has it at 3.8 stars with 66 reviews, so pretty compensatory to each other. ABH is a cruelty-free brand, so for those of you who are looking for cruelty-free makeup, this is a good brand to buy from. Again, like I said, this is or was a limited edition palette pop full of shades that Carli cannot live without, but they are brand new shades. So this is what the packaging looks like. It is a white background palette with what appears to be like pearls in it. I don't like this palette's exterior. This isn't necessarily, I mean, it is raised a little bit, but it's not necessarily gross, but it kind of grosses me out. I don't know. I don't 100% know why. I think it's just kind of tryptophobic for me. Is that where you get like a sensation of holes in the body? It reminds me of a lotus flower of sorts. So there's that. I don't like the exterior of this packaging. As a matter of fact, it almost turned me off to the palette. You open it up and it does have the standard ABH mirror and the standard format of the 14 shades that are in this palette. It did come with this guy, which is a dual-sided brush. One has a fluffier end for blending and the other has a more dense end for packing. I do not like that brush. The brush is made in China. I don't think that it's made very well at all. I have tried the ABH dual-ended brushes and I just don't like them. So I always take the brush out and put it into a little stash I have of in palette brushes, and dual-ended brushes, not to mention, are not my favorite. So you can't stand them up in my little caddy back here. So I don't like that. So I do go ahead and get rid of the brushes, but it does come with one. And this is what the shades in that palette look like. You do have some fairly neutral tone eyeshadows. You also have some duochromes in there. There's a lot of sparkle in there. This is 14 shades at the standard 0.02 ounces per pan that all ABH 14 pan eyeshadow palettes are. I'm not going to dive a whole lot into ABH as a brand and what this palette consists of, only because I've done many of these palette roulettes on ABH shadows and the formulation of them. So go back, check some of those out. I do have my playlist linked down below. These are pretty standard ABH formula. They are a wee bit powdery. There is going to be a lot of fallout with these shadows. You do have to go in with a really light hand, and that doesn't really matter because the pigmentation is there regardless of how light of a hand you go in with. Also, regardless of how light of a hand you go in with, you are going to see fallout, and it doesn't matter what shade it is, you're gonna see fallout. That is just a standard ABH website. or standard ABH formula. I handle it with grace because I like ABH. ABH is it's definitely on my top 5. This palette does have quite a few glitters in it that aren't called out, neither on the website nor on the packaging. And it has one shade in here that is actually warned as a pressed pigment, which is this one here called Cindy, and not intended for eye use. So there's that. And of course, not intended for eye use is the FDA guidelines for what is and should be used on the eyes. That one is not so much supposed to be used on the eyes. It just means it has dyes in it or something that makes it the color that it is. And the FDA doesn't like the dye for use around your eye. However, with that being said, I do use it on my eye. I have used it on my eye. I don't listen to those guidelines, but you do you and figure out what works best for you. The biggest thing I've had to deal with when using those kind of shades is that it causes some kind of eye irritation or it stains my eyes. And I'm okay with that. I found them to be more cool toned than warm toned, but there is a little bit of warm in here. I prefer warm tones on myself, only because I feel like my skin has a little bit of yellow to it and it just looks better. But didn't mind using this palette, honestly. I just have a harder time with cooler tone shades. And me thinking that they look good on me. Like, I will put on an eye look and I'll be like, this is nasty. This is awful. And I can't blend and I feel like it's just all around an awful eye look. And then I will show pictures to somebody and they'll be like, oh, that is actually really pretty. I don't know. What was your, what was your issue with the eye look? Nothing, except for that I don't think I look great in cool tone shadows. There is a little bit of warm in this palette, so it had that going for it as well. And honestly, I think that this eye look, I probably look better in eye looks with these tones than I do in the bright, robust eye looks that I go for typically, but I don't think I look good in them. But the pictures I go through, I'm like, wow, that actually looks better on me than a lot of other eye looks that I've done that I thought looked great. So there's that. This palette, I kind of felt bad for Carli Bybel because this palette came at the tail end of like a 9 palette streak by ABH last year over a very short time span. So I think like this palette maybe got a lot less hype than it could have. Also, the color story is just really kind of meh. When you look at it, it is definitely boring compared to the Jackie Aina palette or the Alyssa palette or even the Riviera palette. It falls short. It doesn't have those standout shades. And when I first saw the palette, the only color that really stood out to me was this one here. I really thought that that was a beautiful like lavender taupe. And this one here, which I thought was a beautiful like steely blue shade. And those two shades did not disappoint in this palette. I did have a great time with them. As a matter of fact, the taupey one is all over my lid today, and I did put like this right on the center as kind of a spotlight, but not really a spotlight. I love those two shades. They kind of melt into your skin and become one with your eyelid, so they just perform very beautifully. There is a lot of glitters in this palette, I feel like, that aren't necessarily called out on the website as a glitter formula, but this one especially is definitely, the glitters are bigger And this one, they're multi-tonal, so they stood out a little bit more. This one definitely should have been listed as a glitter, and I'm not certain that the glitters that are in here are approved eye safe, but it doesn't say that they're not, so maybe they are, but they are rather big. It's a really pretty shade though, because it's got a really beautiful base, and then it's got like 3 or 4 different colors of glitters in it, and the glitter actually in this formula really stuck around. I mean, it kind of moves on your eyelid a little bit, but it doesn't fall out all over your face, which I totally expected to happen. This one, however, the glitters are all over the place. I did put it into my brow bone a couple of times, and the glitter would fall onto my cheeks. So the glitter doesn't stick around in this shade, but it is also pretty sparse. It's definitely not as packed full of glitter as this shade here. Do you guys see? There's me looking at me in the monitor. Okay, like I said, there's no warning on the website. There's also no warning on the packaging, so they very well might be eye safe glitters, but for those of you who are trying to minimize your consumption of glitters and palettes, this has a couple. Cindy, as I said, is the shade here. It is not listed as an eyeshadow. It's listed as a pressed pigment. It is also listed as a cheek color. Like, forgive me, but I don't have a blush brush that is that tiny. Although I would say it would probably be a beautiful cheek color, but the pan would have to be at least twice that big for me to be able to use it as a cheek color. I do like that tone of cheek color, so it would probably be a beautiful cheek color, but it's also a beautiful eye color. It's just a pressed pigment, so it's classified as not for eye use. This was a palette that launched on October 7th. I think it actually launched earlier than it was supposed to. I think it was supposed to come out towards the middle of October, and Carli Bybel's video was on the 3rd of October because it got leaked about a week ahead of time, which it's a pretty standard thing these days. I just don't understand why that is that way. I'm gonna go ahead and swatch the shades, give you guys some look at the shades and talk to you about them, and then we will show you some pictures while I give you a little bit more information. Y'all know how we do this. I do them on my hand, and that way I can get up close and show you guys up close as well. Also, I'm kind of a hot mess swatching them on my arm, so we're not even going to attempt that. I'm going to do the first row. For the first row, we have Bali, which is a metallic champagne. It has some micro glitter in it. There's almost none though. It's pretty sparse, but maybe you'll be able to see it when I do get it up close to you. This is a beautiful shade. I did use it in my brow bone often. I used it as an inner corner highlight until I realized there was glitter in it, so I think one use. Then I stopped using it as an inner corner highlight. You guys know how I feel about glitters. They kind of terrify the F out of me. There's a fairly small amount of glitter in the shadow. The next one is this guy here. It is called Bybel, and it is a matte reddish purple brown. It's kind of a mauve, but it applies a little bit more brown. This is it in my eye look today. It is on this upper section of eye in between my crease and my brow bone. I did put a little bit of red into it because it does perform a little bit more brown on my skin. If you guys can't tell in the swatch, it is looking a little like taupey brown versus mauvey pinky purple. The next shade is this one, which is Mandala. It is a metallic purple duochrome. It shifts pink to purple, blue. It is in the center of my eye look today. This one is better applied with a finger. It is a little bit chunky, but if you apply it with your finger, it isn't quite as chunky, and hopefully you guys can see that shift. It is a little bit frosty, and I kind of dig it. This one is also in my eye look today. This one is called Libra. It is a metallic. On the website, it says metallic goldish. I don't think this is gold at all. I think it's like a taupey bronze. It kind of leans a little lavender, and it is all over my lid today minus that center section. I really love this shadow. It melts right into your skin. It's a wee bit creamier than some of the other shadows in the palette. So I feel like it just melts in and just looks so pretty. Then we have this one, which is Jode, and it is a shimmer teal on the website is what it's listed as. I think that it's more of a purple blue gray, but it is so pretty. I do have an eye look with that all over the lid too. It is so pretty. I think that one, those two there are probably my two favorite in the palette. They are just stunning on the eye. This shade up top is the OA shade. OA is a blue-purple duochrome. It does have the multi-tonal glitters in there, and hopefully you'll be able to see it when I get up close for you. It is a beautiful shade, and it actually applied a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It also blended really well, which is also shocking for a glitter. There was something else I was going to say, and I cannot remember what it was. So I'm going to move on. The last one in that top row is called Bowie. It is a matte ash brown. So that is that first row, kind of up close and personal for you. You guys can see it is super muted in tone, but man, those shades are so, why do I keep moving my hand? Those shades are so pretty. I don't know if you guys can see the glitters in those shades. It's a really pretty palette. And truth be told, I had zero desire to purchase this palette. I think I purchased it on a whim because it was on sale and because I own almost every ABH palette, so I thought I needed to have this one too. I probably wouldn't have purchased it if it hadn't been on sale when it was, because it wasn't even a thought process in my head to purchase this palette. So now we have Bear, which is a matte beige. It's more yellow than it is beige, I think, and it's a little more satiny than it is matte. Also, this, although we look at the palette and we think that's a great shade to blend with, this is a horrible shade to blend with. It just makes everything look kind of ashy that it goes on top of. So if you're going to put this down into your brow bone, don't do it as an afterthought, do it as a forethought. It is in my brow bone today. I just do think that it's just a little bit too yellow and too satiny to be that blend out shade for a lot of people. This one is called Moo, and Moo is a metallic light gold. It is so creamy, super creamy. As a matter of fact, if you go into that a little heavier, you would probably pan the pan. It is also one of those shades that just kind of melts into your skin. It is just so pretty. Then we have Chai, which is a matte light brown. It's kind of got a little bit of a peachy kick to it. Then we have Cindy, which is, sorry, swatching on my pinky never works out super great. Cindy is the pressed pigment in the palette. This is a matte bright orange is what it's labeled as, but it's more just like a coral shade. And again, I'm gonna swatch it again because swatches on my pinky are never ever good. You guys can see it did turn my pinky a wee bit orange, so there is a little bit of staining there. I didn't really notice that on my eyes, to be honest, but I only really used that shade like today. It's used on the lower lash line to buff out the color that I have on the lower lash line. It was also used to blend out some of my eye looks up top. The last three in this row are this one here, which is called Stev. It is a matte dark red. It does have cooler undertones. I did like this red. It is really pretty, but in eye looks it actually appears more burgundy or pinky than it does red, which I'm finding to be true of a lot of reds. I would love to just find a regular good old red. This is more of a pinky red. That shade right there on top is called Aura, and it is a really pretty metallic pink with a little bit of a red undertone to it, and it is best applied with your fingertips. And then the last shade is that one, which is called My Angels. It is a metallic gold. It's kind of got an olive tone to it. It is a little more bronze, and it takes over an eye look like no other metallic gold I have ever in my life encountered. I had an eye look, and I think you guys will see a picture of it, that I didn't do the rest of my makeup. I did take that eye look immediately off. I liked the eye look, I did, but it was a little more gold than I had intended it to be, because that My Angel shade just took over, and y'all know how I feel about gold. With that being said, I did not use this shade very often, nor did I use this one very often, but there is a close-up of those shades. This is a really pretty palette. It really is. It's just not a palette that I typically would pull for because of the color scheme of it. But I thought I would dig into Carli Bybel just a little bit, because I have been over the ABH formula. I've been over the ABH palettes. I've talked to you guys quite extensively about all those things. So like learning a little bit about Carli Bybel and why this palette is the way it is was important, I think, to this review. Carli has been on the YouTube platform as a YouTube creator in the beauty and lifestyle hemisphere for quite some time, having a channel that was solely based on beauty and then moving more towards beauty and lifestyle over the years. She has been on YouTube for 11 years. She has 6.2 million subscribers, and her videos are pretty heavily watched, so I would be shocked if they didn't have 6.2 million sold. She's not somebody I've ever watched. I've heard her be talked about quite often. She is one of those YouTubers people stan. She's very rarely in any kind of, if ever, in any kind of drama, which I think is why I don't know anything about her. I didn't start watching YouTube until about 3 years ago. All the ones that were getting all the crazy drama were the ones that you heard about all the time. I didn't know anything about Carli Bybel. I did go in and watch her video on this palette so that I knew exactly how to, some of those names for those shades are a little bit wonky, and I wanted to make sure I was saying them right. And I think it's just so heartwarming how close she is to her subscribers, but also her family, her pets. So there are several shades in here. Bali, Bowie, Bear, Chai, and Cindy are named for her cats. She's the crazy cat lady without being the crazy cat lady. Jode and Stev are named after her mom and dad. Those are her nicknames for her mom and dad. And Jode, it was her mom's favorite shade in the palette. My Angels is named after her supporters. That's what she calls her subscribers. And then Mandala is named after her sister, because apparently that's her sister's nickname. So I just thought that that was really kind of cool that all of these shadows in here were named after things that actually mean something to her. But watching that video and a couple before it and a couple after it, really just, she's an inspiration. She's a really beautiful yet humble creator here on the platform. And the fact that you never hear anything about her in a negative manner, kind of like, you know, Samantha Ravindal or Raw Beauty Christie, like those are the ones that I aspire to be in the future. Maybe not with the amount of subscribers that they have, but one that can literally say, I'm doing this because it's fun for me. It took me a minute. I'm not in the limelight because I caused drama. That's the kind of influencer I want to be someday when I become a booty guru. That'll never happen. But if it does, this is the kind of person I want to be. Carli Bybel is inspiring. And I will keep this palette, and I'm happy that I supported her, if for no other reason, for that reason, because she deserves it. I'm sad for her because I don't think it got the time that it deserved, because it really is a beautiful palette. These two shades here make this palette alone for me. These are unique to my collection and they are stunning. And if I liked gold, I would put this one in there too. It is stunning. They are stunning shades. So like I said, this palette is on sale right now at Sephora and on the ABH website. You can get it a little cheaper at Sephora right now for $22.50 versus $31.50. It's not a palette that's going to leave my collection anytime soon, even though there aren't colors that I necessarily pull for or find myself pulling for. They are colors that I think I look good in. I think they're colors that go well with my skin tone. But if you're not into ABH, if you're not into high pigmentation, if you're not into fallout, those kind of things, if they're deal breakers for you, don't get this palette. As always, ABH shadows last a good 10-15 hours. They also have crazy pigmentation. They also work better with a primer, but they work really well without one as well. I think this eye look right now that I have on today, there's no primer underneath it. Okay guys, I am going to pull a new palette. You all know the drill. We go through the Decide Now app that I pulled on my Play Store. Do have a Samsung Note 9. They do have these kind of applications on the iOS system though as well. So it's just like a Wheel of Fortune type app. I did put all of my palettes into this before we started this. As we use the palettes, I do pull them out. When we get new palettes in, I do put them in. And to spin it, you just press the button here and it spins. All right, I got the Juvia's Place Warrior 3 palette, you guys. I don't think I've used this palette, so I'm gonna go get it. I will be right back. All right, this is the Juvia's Place Warrior 3 palette. This is the colorful version of the Warrior palettes. I am obviously going to have to pair this with my singles. I'm gonna need some neutrals. This is just definitely a pop of color kind of palette. I love Juvia's Place. They're also top 5 formulas, so I hope that you guys liked this video. I hope that if you did, that you're considering giving it a thumbs up. It really does help our channels out here. And I also hope that you liked it or me enough that you're considering subscribing before you go. I would love to see you guys down in the comments section. If you do subscribe, please don't forget to hit that notification bell. I do upload content every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and every other Sunday. So hit that bell so that you're notified every single time I upload. It's automatic, it's free to you, and it is fun over here on this channel. Thank you guys so much for joining us today and joining me. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and until next time, bye guys.